All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. Go ahead and thank you for your patience. I just need to get set up here for a minute since I was out on Friday, a little bit in the weeds. But my apologies for being out on Friday. Thank you again for putting your personal devices away. And if you have Chromebooks open, go ahead and close those, please. Okay, just close them up. Just focus. You got to remember, we have got a sort of abbreviated week because we have conferences, and so we lose a day. So we're actually going to, who is chef of the week this week on your station? Raise your hand so I know who you are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and station 2, who's chef of the week? Okay, great. All right, so you know who you are. So we're going to be jumping right in and starting lab. We've got 3 days. The last cookie recipe we did, obviously the no bake, was focused on measuring. The brown butter chocolate chip cookie was focused on heat regulation. Now we're just simply doing a simple drop cookie. It's the last cookie lesson of the semester, but it's a good one. Anybody here allergic to peanuts? Okay, all right. So we're doing peanut butter cookies this week, and it's a good way to sort of finish up sort of the cookie series. And put us in a position to move to more advanced techniques, and also I'll make mention of the fact that we're moving to being more confident with how things work in here, what the expectations are in terms of cleanup, time management, and everything. So we're ready to do more advanced skills. So we are 40% of the way through the semester, okay? And I apologize. Since I was sick, I've got a sore throat still, so I'm just asking you just tone down the talking, please, and just listen. I'm going to lecture briefly, and then we're going to jump right into day one mise en place. You're just gathering your ingredients today, okay? So moving into it, obviously we have conferences this week. So you all, periods 1, 2, 3, are with my class on Wednesday morning, okay? Then Thursday you're not with me. So that's why we're going to do the lab on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll have a little bit of a longer period, okay? Connor. All right, so we're gonna have a longer period on Wednesday, and then Thursday you're not with me, and then Friday we'll do slats and submit Ruby. Okay, and so one of the things that I want to do is just encourage you, keep your eye on the prize grades. I will do an update just as I do on Mondays. I'll do an update from what I didn't grade on Friday, and I'll put zeros in the grade book. And so you want to make sure you know where your grade is at. Okay, so by the end of the day today, I will submit grades probably around 6th period because I have an IEP after school today. So you want to get any learning submitted, and you should have some time on your Chromebooks even today after we do mise en place. Okay, so you want to keep your eye on that. Okay, term grading deadline, that is obviously passed, but the one thing that you want to remember is we have conferences, so your grade does matter, and your parents will be getting the grade report at home that was obviously generated last week. But then obviously the response is that if you have an F in the class, I've reached out to your parents already, and I've sent that message to you as well. So and based on where we're at, we still have a handful of people literally that aren't passing, so we need to work on that. You guys, please be quiet. Okay. So, Chef of the Week, I want to give you a reminder here that on the Chef of the Week, what I'm looking for on the kitchen station management, you've got the QR code on your cabinet, but on the kitchen station management, I'm looking for your stations to be reorganized. You're going to use the laminated books or the QR code on your cabinet. You want to show the station being reset, the drawers being organized or the cabinets being organized, whatever it might be. But everything needs to be in accordance with the picture on the presentation from the QR code or the laminated books that are over there between station 1 and 2. So some people have been getting this wrong, and they've been submitting like the technique pictures. Okay, this is us cooking, and I'm like, that's not what I want to see there. Okay, so on Fridays I expect you to reset your stations. Okay, learning evidence feedback. The other thing that I'm seeing pretty consistently, and I'm grading down on this, is if your pictures and your statements and your standards don't align. So I see some students just moving the check mark, okay, and just grabbing any standard and then writing a comment that's about something random and then putting a picture in about something else that's not related. The idea with the slat is that it's linear in nature from left to right. You identify the standard, you make the statement about that standard and who executed it, and then you provide evidence with the picture that you've done that standard. So there needs to be a relationship between all three, and I'm paying attention to that more now. So don't just insert stuff randomly. You need to be thoughtful about it. Okay. Let's go ahead really quickly, and I'm going to pause for a moment here, and we're going to go ahead and do our learning target on the screen, please. Okay, so I and we will learn and apply basic cookie preparation and baking skills. So you can see week 8, okay, our peanut butter cookies is our lab this week. You've got one unit 6 to complete. And let's just talk really quickly. Obviously, how many of you guys have just independently at home baked cookies? Pretty common, yeah, pretty common thread, okay? A lot of different types of cookies. You can see here, you got drop cookies, which is what you're doing this week, rolled cookies, molded cookies, pressed cookies, bar cookies, meringue, okay? And then sandwich, like ice cream sandwich style cookies, okay? So a lot of different types of cookies that are out there. The most important thing that we talked about when we were doing the last recipe was the creaming technique. And this is the step that most often gets missed, okay? People will combine the sugar and the fat, maybe sometimes the vanilla, and they'll incorporate them, but they don't fully cream them, which gives you sort of a broken emulsion in the cookie. You want to cream these. It helps provide stability, helps your cookie and the rest of the dry ingredients incorporate into the dough, and helps your cookie have a stable baking process. You don't want, cookies that are greasy are often not creamed well, and the desired outcome isn't achieved, okay? So I'm going to show you really quickly here a video, okay, on the creaming.
You're going to always be told to try to bring your ingredients to the same room temperature. So like you start with butter, and the butter should be like soft, really soft. So I'm going to use this bench scraper tool to help cut it. I would say the colder your butter, cut it into the smaller pieces, like especially.
Yeah, that's a good technique. So when you do use chilled butter, it's not bad to start with chilled butter, but when you're trying to incorporate it in the creaming technique, you want to just cut it into small pieces, even if it's cold. And it'll quickly warm up through the friction of the mixing process. Whether you're using a hand mixer or a countertop mixer, that'll give you the desired outcome of it incorporating pretty quickly.
Especially if you need like emergency cookies and your butter's a little chilly, you forgot to take it out. So I'm just going to put it into a bowl. And then the next ingredient in usually is sugar. Could be powdered sugar, like in this recipe. It could be regular granulated sugar. The sugar, if you think of it, under a microscope is kind of sharp, like little blades. And what that does is it helps make space in the fat of the butter so it can hold in the next ingredient, which is almost always in this method, an egg. That's the paddle. This is the bowl. I'm going to raise the arm and we're going to turn it on. Low speed is 1. And we want to kind of like watch it. With a cookie in particular, the more air that's gathered in the creaming method, it spreads a lot. So you don't really want your cookies spreading like into each other, for example. That's one reason why the ingredients are supposed to be room temperature. It helps them what we call emulsify, which is to mix together the fats and the water in the butter and the egg. So we're just making it fluffy. Fluffy is not cold and clingy. It's moving around pretty well, so I think we're okay. I'm going to take the egg and I'm just going to crack it flat on the table. That's going to let me get into the shell. The egg should also be room temperature ideally. Now, we've got a fork, okay, just to kind of help us beat the egg yolk, because if the egg, especially if it's cold, is like all stuck together, clinging to itself, what that's going to do is like it's going to just jump into the butter and sugar mixture, which is not helpful in terms of this emulsion where we're trying to mix the fats in the water. So I have fluffy butter and sugar. I'm going to trickle in my egg that I've beaten nice and slowly. It's like let your butter talk to you. If your butter is still fluffy, it's happy with the rate you're adding your egg. If you add it too fast, or the egg or the butter are too cold, you're going to see it look kind of wet and glistening. So these are what we call our dry ingredients. And what we're going to do is put them into the mixer bowl. Put them in them all at once.
Yeah, you can incorporate it on low, but the one technique also, if you have a lot of flour, a good technique is to take the flour, pour it onto a piece of paper or a piece of parchment. Just your recipe is fine, and then just angle it up and just sort of slowly incorporate it in. You can do that all at once rather than like taking a measuring cup and pouring it in. It's a little bit easier just to slide it in there.
And we're going to put it on low speed, and we're going to mix to what they call just combined. So we're just going to mix it on low speed until like the flour part disappears. Okay, so we finished mixing and we have a lovely emulsified cookie dough ready to go. There's many ways to roll the log. One thing is to partially chill the dough, maybe 10 minutes. It can cooperate a little bit better than when you first made your emulsified cookie dough. If you just use your clean hands and you spread the cookie batter, that's a good way to start. And there's nothing wrong with that. But check this out, if you use the parchment, you can kind of like help you roll it into a log, okay? And the log may not be perfect at first. So if it's very frustrating, like your kitchen is warm or something like that, you can put this even in your freezer for 10 minutes and it will all just roll much, much better. So we have a log, it's been frozen either 20 minutes or in the fridge about half an hour, or you could keep it honestly in your freezer for, I would say, 2 months. So we're going to cut with the chef knife, and I'm just going to trim off the end for a second. And then to keep it round, I'm going to rotate 90 degrees each time. So I'm just going to kind of come back and forth, because if you keep cutting, you're not going to keep it round. One side will flatten out, like if you just kept one side down the whole time. So you do want to kind of cut fairly quickly so it's still a roll and cold. Here are some different styles from this exact same dough. If you bake on a silicone baking sheet, those are non-stick, so it makes it like the cookie gets to move. On parchment, the cookie doughs always move a little bit less. So like the parchment kind of makes it like grip a little bit. So you can see we kind of start to get a little bit more of an edge. When you actually bake it though in a ring like this, that's what makes this nice straight edge. It's just completely up to you what you have for your baking tools or what kind of style effect you're going for. I'm going to take a little tiny bit of fleur de sel and put it on the top before we bake. And that's about it. These are going to bake, and then when they come out, they're like this about 8 minutes later. When you see something ask for creaming method, it's going to ask for your ingredients to be at the same room temperature. That allows the emulsion between the fats and the water in the butter and the egg to come together more permanently and be fluffy, not wet and curdled looking. You want, in this case, to feature the butter. You want it to melt in your mouth, and that is what this is supposed to be. You can see it's got really pretty with the pecans. It's nice and buttery, and that's it.
Okay, key is consistency. Obviously, accuracy and measuring is the #1 priority. One of the things that I've been seeing a lot is people walking up to the flour bin, and they'll scoop, okay, with their measuring cup, and then they'll press on the side to get it level. That's not how you measure flour, right? You need to use the scoop that's in the bin, pour it into the measuring vessel, and then level it out with a flat edge, either a baker, scraper, bench scraper. From your measuring set, you got that little leveler. Make sure you do that. That's more accurate, okay? Otherwise, you're incorporating more flour in your recipe than you need, and it's going to keep things dry. Proper creaming technique is what we want to aim for once we start production tomorrow. Follow the method, and then manage the temperature, right, during the baking process is a nice desired outcome. All right. Quick science behind
From
it.
idea to submission, empower students to do their best work with Grammarly's comprehensive AI writing.
Of the week, go ahead and grab your chef coat, please. See how it's separated and broken up? They're adding food coloring to show you what it looks like. So it's starting to get aerated. That's what you're looking like. That's what you want. Creamy, fluffy. How it's finished. Fluffy and then color. Color cabinet. in a smaller quantity, a couple of is reasonable. Okay. Chef coats are being cleaned, so I'll work on getting those. You can just go without them today. So you see the uncreamed cookie here? Bread goes broader and flatter. Okay, I'd like you to go ahead, Chef of the Week, suit up. Well, obviously, until I get chef coats, don't worry about that. And then wash our hands, get our sandy buckets filled, and let's go ahead and do number day 1, mise en place. Recipes are in the front. Identify your standards. Select what you're going to take pictures of. Who's going to do what? Get organized. Spend a couple minutes doing that, please.